What's up, guys? It is now time to talk some Seattle Sounders soccer. The Sounders have clinched the #2 seed in the Western Conference of the Major League Soccer, and are gonna go into the playoffs for their third year in a row and in their third year of existence. The opponent will be Real Salt Lake, and they will play two matches in an aggregate goal format system. Basically, the two teams have to outscore each other for 180 minutes. One in Sandy, Utah, and one in Seattle. In that order. Kind of a brief recap for the Sounders. I think it took a while for them to really get going. There was a Freddie Montero controversy earlier in the season, and then lo and behold, he got himself going and led the team this season in goals. And throughout the last few months, I really have gotten the impression, I know that there's a lot of Sounder fans and a lot of soccer fans here in the Northwest, not just with Seattle, but Vancouver, BC, and Portland, Oregon. But I really feel that this team is kind of one under the radar, because if you turn on, not so much the Seattle Times, but if you turn on ESPN Seattle, they rarely bring up soccer. Also in KJR, they do a little bit better job with covering soccer. They have Arlo White, the voice of the Seattle Sounders, on with the Gas Man in the afternoons every week, and they'll recap games a little bit more in depth than ESPN Seattle will. But even so, there even are some broadcasters on that radio station who say things like, "Oh, so the Sounders won the U.S. Open Cup. So what exactly is this? I have no idea what this is." So, I mean, I feel like this is that the Sounders they do have a following, but in some regards, not a lot, but in some regards, they've kind of won under the radar. And so now it's time to focus on them completely, with them being in the playoffs. So let's preview the series as they get ready for the first match, which will be on Saturday in Sandy, Utah. Start with Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake in goals. They are led by Alvaro Saborio with 11 goals, Fabian Espindola with 10, and then Kyle Beckerman, who is a fun player to watch, not just because of the hair, of course, but I like Kyle Beckerman. Beckerman and Nate Borchers finished the season with 3. For the assist category, Beckerman led the team with 9 assists, and Colin Warner had 5. In goal, between the posts, you have Nick Ramato, who started 33 games for Real Salt Lake and recorded a 14-11-8 record. For your Seattle Sounders, in goals, Freddie Montero led the team in goals with 18. Alvaro Fernandez had 10. And Alvaro Fernandez actually was the only player I saw score a goal live. I went to 2 games this year. One was against Portland, the other one was against Manchester United, and Alvaro Fernandez got the goal against Portland. So he had 10. Michael Facedo and Lamar Nagel, Brad Evans, and Ozzy Alonso all are tied in third in goals with 6. For the assists, we have Mauro Rosales with 14, Freddie Montero with 10, and Nate Jacob with 5. In goal, we have Casey Keller, who started 40 games for the Sounders this year. In those games, he had 12 shutouts and a 21-9-10 record, and his goals against average is 1.03. Kind of a recap of the season series. The two clubs, met in Sandy, Utah in May when the Sounders won 2-1. Patrick Ianni scored for the Sounders first. That was late in the second half. Lamar Nagel got the game winner a couple minutes later for Seattle. Nelson Gonzalez scored for Real Salt Lake to make it a little closer, but by that time it was too late because he scored in the 88th minute. And so the Sounders won that game 2-1. The two clubs met again in Seattle in September, where the Seattle Sounders lost 2-1. This game was a little awkward considering Casey Keller let in a goal by himself to give Real Salt Lake the lead. Freddie Montero tied it up right at the end of the first half in the 45th minute before Alvaro Saborio scored the game winner in the second half. So Real Salt Lake took home the 2-1 victory in Seattle. So both teams did not win at home in the season series, so that's something to look at. Your storylines, obviously the biggest storyline of the series, it is going to go on the Seattle Sounders, side, and this is Casey Keller's final chance to win an MLS Cup. They've been promoting this throughout the last few months. In fact, there was a game where the Seattle Sounders sold over 60,000 tickets to see Casey Keller play his final home match, a regular season home match in a MLS uniform, which the Sounders defeated the San Jose Earthquakes 2-1. And so this is something that that has been hyped up for a really long period of time. Another storyline, Real Salt Lake has won it all before, so they have experience going into this playoff run. I believe there's a lot of players from that MLS Cup champion team still on this one, Kyle Becker to be one of them. And another storyline, Seattle has never gotten past the first round of the playoffs. First season, they lost to the Houston Dynamo, and then last year, they lost to the Los Angeles Galaxy. So the first game of the aggregate goal format series will take place on Saturday in Sandy, Utah, and Game 2 will take place on Wednesday, November 2nd in Seattle. Whoever scores the most goals in these two games will move on to the Western Conference Championship. Here are my keys to the series. Regardless if you're Real Salt Lake or you're Seattle, you got to guard your home pitch. And I bring this up because both teams, when they met each other, the road team won. So I think the Sounders need to survive the first match if they want a chance to win this series to go along with that. But that's something to watch for, considering that maybe home pitch or home field advantage may not mean anything in this series, because both teams have experience in winning on the road against each other. Both teams, and I know this probably is a given, but at least for the Sounders, they need to score early. And I bring this up because pretty much the last 2 months of the season for the Sounders, they've been really close, and then in the final 15, maybe 10, maybe 20 minutes of the game, that's when they get hot, and that's when they score their goals, and they end up stealing victories and coming home victorious. Now that's a good thing. That's good, as in the sense you pretty much never give up, and you never say, okay, you never die or anything like that. But this is the playoffs, and you can't necessarily wait to the last second to score goals. So my thing for the Sounders is score early, jump on Real Salt Lake, because what you have been pulling, against San Jose, I forgot there was another team that they pulled a comeback, but that may not be enough to win in the playoffs. So jump on them early, outscore Real Salt Lake to get to the Western Conference Championship game, which would be pretty big. So, and if you're not a Seattle Sounders fan and you're from Seattle and you're like, oh man, we're down in the dumps because of what's happening with the Seahawks and Mariners and everything, get off your horse and start watching the Sounders, because this team they're in the playoffs. It gets an opportunity to put Seattle on the national level, and this is what we got. So I'm not saying that I am now jumping on the bandwagon. I'm just saying to the general public who doesn't necessarily understand soccer, you need to do this because the team is in the playoffs for the third year in a row, and that should tell you something. So, all right, that's what I got. Go Sounders and take down Real Salt Lake. I'll recap Game 1 as soon as I can after it's played on Saturday, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.